First contact and betrayal. The observation deck of the UNSS Horizon offered the most spectacular view in human space, at least according to Captain Maya Reyes. 38 light-years from Earth, the research vessel floated silently in the darkness between stars, its powerful sensors sweeping across the celestial canvas. Captain Reyes stood with her hands clasped behind her back, dark eyes reflecting the distant points of light that represented humanity's potential future. Still admiring the view, Captain, Science Officer Elias Chen approached, tablet in hand. His voice carried the excited tone that Maya had come to recognize over their 3-year mission together. Never gets old, Chen. What have you found? Something impossible. Chen handed her the tablet. We detected it during our routine sweep of the Lyra constellation. A signal, artificial, structured, and definitely not one of ours. Maya studied the waveform pattern displayed on the screen. The rhythmic pulses followed a mathematical sequence too precise to be natural phenomena. Her heart rate quickened as the implications settled in. You've verified this isn't some echo from one of our outposts. No chance it's a glitch. Triple-checked. This is coming from the fourth planet of the HD 179,949 system. And it's a greeting, Captain. It follows the universal mathematical constants we've been broadcasting for decades. In 2157, humanity had expanded throughout the solar system, but had yet to encounter another intelligent species. The United Earth Space Initiative had launched dozens of research vessels, like the Horizon, specifically to search for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. After decades of silence, someone had finally answered. Alert Admiral Cho. Priority Alpha. Then assembled the senior staff in the conference room. Maya ordered, already moving toward the door. Looks like we're about to make history. Within 24 hours, the Horizon had adjusted course and initiated its fusion drive toward the signal's origin. The United Earth Council had authorized first contact protocols, making Maya's research vessel the tip of humanity's diplomatic spear. Behind them, 3 UESI military vessels had also changed course, a precaution that Maya hoped would prove unnecessary. For 6 weeks, the signal continued, growing stronger as they approached. The ship's linguists and communication specialists worked around the clock to decipher more complex patterns that began emerging within the transmission. By the time they achieved orbit around the fourth planet, a blue-green world with sprawling oceans and 2 small moons, they had established the foundations of communication. They call themselves the Lyrani, reported Dr. Sanjay Patel, the ship's xenolinguist, and they're eager to meet us. Their transmissions indicate they've been watching our solar system for nearly a century, studying our broadcasts and learning our languages. The planet below teemed with life. Cities glittered along coastlines, vehicles moved in orderly patterns through the air, and massive structures that could only be spaceports dotted the equatorial regions. The Lyrani civilization appeared to be perhaps a century ahead of humanity technologically, but not so advanced as to be incomprehensible. First contact occurred on the surface, in a ceremonial plaza constructed specifically for the occasion. Maya led a team of 12 specialists, the first humans to set foot on an alien world. The atmosphere required filtration masks, but was otherwise hospitable. The delegation walked slowly toward the assembled Lyrani representatives, conscious of making history with every step. The Lyrani stood taller than humans, with lithe frames that supported 4 upper limbs and iridescent skin that shifted colors with their emotions. Their faces featured 6 eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern around a central speaking orifice. Despite their alien appearance, their body language conveyed a warmth and openness that put Maya's team at ease. We welcome humanity to shared stars. The lead Lyrani spoke in carefully practiced English, its skin rippling with blue-green patterns that the team's xenobiologists would later identify as expressions of joy and reverence. Long have we hoped for companions among the void. The first days of contact unfolded with meticulous care on both sides. Cultural exchange teams worked to establish deeper understanding, while scientists compared notes on physics, biology, and astronomy. The Lyrani proved to be a peaceful species that had unified their world centuries earlier, focusing their collective energy on art, science, and exploration. By the third week, Maya had established a rapport with Ilaraven, the Lyrani High Coordinator who served as their primary diplomatic contact. During a private meeting in the Lyrani's equivalent of a garden, a bioluminescent grotto filled with floating plant analytes, Ilaraven's skin darkened to a concerning purple-black. "There is something we must share with you, Captain Reyes, a reason why your arrival brings both joy and urgency to our people." The High Coordinator activated a holographic display, showing a star map of nearby systems. Several pulsed with an angry red glow. "The Keldorian Empire," Ilaraven explained, voice dropping to a lower register. "A coalition of 3 species that has expanded aggressively through this sector for the past 50 years. They subjugate worlds, strip resources, and assimilate useful technologies and populations." Maya studied the map, noting the systematic pattern of expansion. "And they're heading toward you." "Yes, our long-range vessels encountered their scout ships 3 years ago. The encounter was hostile. We lost 2 ships before retreating. Our surveillance indicates they are methodically moving toward our system." "Why tell me this now?" Maya asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Because we hope for alliance, Captain. The Keldorians conquer through superior numbers and coordination, but their technology is not significantly beyond our own, or yours. Together, our peoples might stand where separately we would fall." Over the following months, the relationship between humanity and the Lyrani deepened. The United Earth Council dispatched diplomats, scientists, and military advisors. Technology exchange programs began, with the Lyrani sharing advancements in fusion technology, while humans offered innovations in artificial intelligence and materials science. The Horizon remained in orbit, serving as the command center for human operations. Maya had been promoted to admiral and tasked with overseeing the growing human presence on Lyran. Chen had taken command of the research vessel, continuing the scientific mission, while Maya focused on diplomatic and strategic concerns. "The defensive grid is almost complete," reported Commander Jackson, Maya's military liaison, during their morning briefing. "The Lyrani engineers have integrated our targeting algorithms with their energy shield technology. If the Keldorians come, they'll face a nasty surprise." "Let's hope they don't come at all," Maya replied, studying the tactical display showing the network of defensive satellites now orbiting Lyran. Her hope proved futile. 6 weeks later, while celebrating the opening of the first human embassy on Lyran, the alarm klaxons sounded across the city. Maya rushed to the command center established within the embassy, where a grim-faced Ilaraven awaited. "They've arrived," the High Coordinator stated, skin pulsing with alarmed crimson patterns. "A Keldorian battle fleet just emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of our system. 27 vessels, including 3 dreadnoughts." The holographic display showed the Keldorian fleet, massive, wedge-shaped vessels arranged in perfect formation. They made no attempt at communication, instead launching smaller craft toward Lyran's orbital defenses. "We're transmitting peaceful intentions on all frequencies," reported a communications officer. No response. The first wave of Keldorian fighters struck the outer defense satellites, which flared briefly before going dark. The coordinated precision of the attack spoke of meticulous planning and experience. "They've studied our defenses," Commander Jackson observed. "This isn't their first encounter with Lyrani technology." Within hours, the orbital defense grid had been reduced by 60%. The 3 human military vessels in the system moved to engage but were vastly outmatched, forced to retreat after suffering heavy damage. On the surface, Maya organized evacuation procedures for the human personnel while Lyrani civilians fled to underground shelters. In the embassy's secure bunker, Maya received a transmission from Earth. Admiral Cho's face appeared on the screen, lines of concern etched deeply around his eyes. "We've received your situation report, Admiral Reyes. The Council is divided on intervention. The Keldorian force appears significantly beyond our current military capabilities. Sir, the Lyrani are being slaughtered. Maya responded, not bothering to hide her emotion. They shared everything with us, trusted us. If we abandon them now, I understand your position, Admiral, but I must be clear. The full United Earth fleet could take weeks to mobilize and reach your position. By then, Maya finished the thought. By then, it could be too late. A distant explosion shook the bunker, dust falling from the ceiling. The Keldorians had begun planetary bombardment, targeting military installations and spaceports. Maya's tactical display showed Lyrani defense forces engaging valiantly, but being systematically overwhelmed. In the adjacent room, Maya could see a Laraven coordinating evacuation efforts, the Lyrani's skin now a pale, resigned gray. Their eyes met briefly across the distance, and in that moment, Maya made her decision. Admiral Cho, please inform the Council that I am invoking Emergency Protocol 7 Alpha. Cho's expression shifted to surprise. That protocol authorizes you to request immediate aid from all human settlements and vessels within range, military or civilian. You understand the implications. I do, sir. The Lyrani are not just potential allies, they're friends, and humanity does not abandon its friends. After the transmission ended, Maya moved quickly to the communication station. Broadcast on all human frequencies, maximum range. This is Admiral Maya Rise of the United Earth Space Initiative. To all human vessels and installations within range. The Lyrani people face extinction at the hands of the Keldorian Empire. I am requesting immediate assistance under Protocol 7 Alpha. Any ship capable of reaching the HD 179,949 system is asked to respond. The Lyrani helped us reach for the stars. Now it's time we help them keep theirs. As the message repeated across the void, Maya returned to Ilaraven's side. The Lyrani leader's skin had shifted to a deep blue, the color of mourning. My people are grateful for your words, Admiral, Ilaraven said softly, but I fear they come too late. Our orbital defenses are failing. The Keldorians will land troops within hours. Maya placed a hand on the alien's shoulder, feeling the slight electric tingle that accompanied Lyrani emotional projection. The thing about humans, High Coordinator, is that we're at our best when the situation seems hopeless, and we've learned something important over our long, often violent history. What is that? Maya's eyes hardened as another explosion rocked the bunker. When someone hurts our friends, we don't just fight back. We come with everything we've got. In orbit above them, the Keldorian fleet continued its relentless advance, unaware that across human space, vessels of all kinds were already changing course, answering humanity's call to arms. Operation Thunderstrike. The United Earth Emergency Response Fleet assembled with unprecedented speed. Within 72 hours of Admiral Raya's distress call, 43 vessels had gathered at the Jupiter way station. A motley armada ranging from military cruisers to mining ships retrofitted with makeshift weapons. Captain Nadia Volkov of the UES Intrepid, the most decorated military officer present, assumed tactical command of what was now being called Operation Thunderstrike. This isn't a standard military operation. Volkov addressed the gathered ship captains via holographic conference. Her weathered face betrayed no emotion, but her voice carried the weight of urgency. We're outnumbered and outgunned by Keldorian standards. Conventional tactics will fail. Engineers, scientists, and military strategists worked around the clock, synthesizing everything known about Keldorian technology from Lyrani intelligence and the limited battle data transmitted by the horizon before communications were cut off. Among them, Dr. Takashi Hiroshi, a civilian propulsion specialist from the Mars colonies, emerged as an unlikely strategic voice. The Keldorians rely on quantum-locked targeting systems, Takashi explained, highlighting technical schematics on the briefing room's main display. Their weapons achieve perfect accuracy by establishing quantum entanglement between launcher and target. It's why they've dominated every conventional engagement. They simply don't miss. And how does this help us? Demanded Colonel Rivera of the UES Hyperion. Sounds like we're walking into a shooting gallery. Takashi's eyes gleamed with the particular intensity that marked humanity's greatest innovators. Because quantum entanglement is fragile at macroscopic scales, it requires precise maintenance of field harmonics. He pulled up simulation models showing the Keldorian fleet formations from previous engagements. They position their ships in precise geometric patterns to maintain these harmonics. Break the pattern, introduce sufficient quantum noise, and their perfect aim becomes worthless. Volkov finished, a smile forming on her normally stoic face. How do we generate enough quantum noise? That's where the mining vessels come in, Takashi replied. Their excavation resonators, with some modifications, can be tuned to the exact frequency needed to disrupt the Keldorian targeting harmonics. The plan that emerged over the next 12 hours was audacious, bordering on insane. The mining vessels would be positioned at the edge of the Lyrani system, modifying their industrial equipment to generate a quantum disruption field. Meanwhile, the military vessels would make a high-speed approach from an unexpected vector, hopefully catching the Keldorians in disarray. "We're calling it Project Achilles," Volkov informed Admiral Cho during their final briefing before departure. One small vulnerability exploited to bring down a seemingly invincible opponent. Admiral Cho's holographic form nodded grimly. "The Council has officially sanctioned the operation. Reinforcements are being mobilized, but you'll be on your own for at least the first engagement. Good hunting, Captain." "For the Lyrani," Volkov replied with a formal salute. "No," Cho corrected. "For humanity and our first allies among the stars." The human fleet arrived at the edge of the Lyrani system after a 9-day journey at maximum sustainable speed. The situation had deteriorated further. The Keldorians had established ground control over 2 continents of the Lyrani homeworld, and their orbital platforms were systematically destroying resistant strongholds. "Deploying mining vessels to coordinates," reported Lieutenant Commander Ortiz from Tactical. "Resonator modifications are holding stable. All military vessels, prepare for combat jump on my mark," Volkov ordered. "Remember, we need to break their formation before they can establish targeting locks. Hit fast, hit hard, and keep moving." The 16 mining ships moved into position. Their massive resonator arrays, normally used to break down asteroids for resource extraction, now recalibrated to generate precisely modulated quantum interference patterns. As they powered up, the energy readings from the Keldorian fleet showed immediate disruption. "It's working," Takashi reported from the science station. "Their formation integrity is dropping. Now, Captain." "All ships, execute combat jump," Volkov commanded. The human military vessels erupted into the heart of the Keldorian fleet, appearing seemingly from nowhere thanks to the short-range FTL combat jump technology developed specifically for this operation. The element of surprise was total. The Keldorian vessels, accustomed to perfect targeting and methodical warfare, found themselves suddenly surrounded by human ships moving at irregular patterns and firing with wild abandon. Aboard the command vessel, Captain Volkov directed the chaotic battle with the precision of a concert conductor. "Intrepid Squadron, break their center formation. Hyperion Group, target their flagship's propulsion. Mining Control, increase resonator output by 20%. The Keldorian response was predictably regimented. They attempted to reform their precise battle formations, not comprehending that this very predictability was being used against them. Their weapons, designed for surgical precision, fired wildly as the quantum disruption scrambled their targeting systems. "They're adapting," warned Takashi as the battle entered its second hour. "Their secondary systems are beginning to compensate for the interference. Intensify resonator output and switch to pattern beta," Volkov ordered. "All ships, prepare for Phase 2. The human fleet executed a maneuver that would have been considered madness in any conventional space battle. They accelerated directly toward the Keldorian vessels in deliberate collision courses, veering away at the last possible moment. This forced the enemy ships to break formation to avoid impact, further disrupting their carefully maintained quantum field harmonics. On the Lyrani surface, Admiral Rice and the remaining human personnel had joined forces with Lyrani resistance fighters. The sudden appearance of the human fleet in orbit had revitalized the Lyrani forces, who launched coordinated strikes against Keldorian ground positions. "The orbital bombardment has stopped," reported Commander Jackson, looking up from his tactical display in the underground command center. "Our fleet is engaging the Keldorians directly." Maya's communicator crackled with a transmission cutting through the Keldorian jamming. Captain Volkov's voice emerged, punctuated by the sounds of battle. "Admiral Rice, Operation Thunderstrike is underway. We've neutralized their targeting advantages, but their hulls are still significantly stronger than ours. We need coordinates for their ground-based command centers." Maya turned to Ilaraven, whose skin now pulsed with renewed hope, a vibrant purple that the humans had come to associate with determination. "Can your scouts provide exact locations?" "Already transmitting," the Lyrani leader responded, manipulating a holographic interface. "Our deep penetration teams have identified 3 primary command nodes controlling their ground forces." Above them, the space battle had reached a critical juncture. 7 human vessels had been destroyed or disabled, but the Keldorian fleet was in disarray. Their perfect formations shattered, their targeting systems compromised. They were experiencing something unprecedented in their centuries of conquest: the possibility of defeat. "All vessels with remaining ordnance form up for surface strike," Volkov commanded. "We've received coordinates for their ground command centers. Take them out, and their forces lose cohesion." The human vessels that still had atmospheric capability descended toward the Lyrani surface, punching through the clouds with thunderous impact. The mining ships, their resonators now reconfigured as weapons, directed concentrated energy beams at the Keldorian ground fortifications, melting through their defensive shields. On the ground, Maya led a combined human-Lyrani strike team toward the nearest Keldorian command center. For the first time, they encountered the conquerors face to face. Massive, armored beings with 4 eyes and chitinous exoskeletons that seemed impervious to small arms fire. "Aim for the joint sections," Maya instructed her team, noticing how the armor plates connected. Concentrated fire, 3-second bursts. The fighting was brutal and close quarters. The Keldorians, while physically imposing and technologically advanced, showed limited tactical flexibility. They relied on overwhelming force and perfect coordination, both now compromised by the human attack on their command structure. In orbit, Captain Volkov's Intrepid engaged the Keldorian flagship directly. The human vessel, smaller and less heavily armed, danced around the massive enemy dreadnought with a nimbleness that the rigid Keldorian command structure couldn't match. "Their shields are fluctuating," reported Tactical Officer Chen. "The resonator effect is cascading through their systems. Target their central power core," Volkov ordered. "All remaining missiles, maximum yield." The Intrepid unleashed its final salvo, a desperate concentration of firepower at the one weak point identified in the Keldorian design. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the enemy flagship's midsection erupted in a spectacular explosion that rippled outward, secondary systems detonating in chain reaction. As the Keldorian flagship disintegrated, something unprecedented occurred across the battlefield. The remaining enemy vessels began to power down their weapon systems, their formations dissolving into disorganized clusters. "They're surrendering," Ortiz questioned, disbelief evident in his voice. Takashi studied the readings from his station. "Not precisely. The Keldorians operate on a centralized command structure. With their flagship destroyed and their ground centers under attack, the chain of command has collapsed. They literally don't know what to do without orders." On the surface, the effect was even more dramatic. The Keldorian ground forces ceased their advance, some units actually laying down their weapons as their tactical networks went silent. Maya's strike team reached the command center to find it in chaos, Keldorian officers frantically trying to re-establish communications with their fleet. Admiral Reyes, came Volkov's voice over the comm system. Status report. Maya surveyed the scene before her. Lyrani resistance fighters standing alongside human soldiers, Keldorian prisoners being secured, and Ilaraven's skin glowing with a color Maya had never seen before, a brilliant gold that seemed to illuminate the room. Captain, I believe we can report that Operation Thunderstrike has succeeded. The Keldorian ground forces are surrendering across all fronts. The victory, while decisive, had come at significant cost. 9 human vessels destroyed, over 300 personnel lost, and the Lyrani homeworld bearing the scars of invasion. But as the dust settled, something profound had occurred. Humanity had fought its first interstellar battle, not for conquest or resources, but to protect an ally. 3 weeks later, delegates from Earth arrived to formalize the alliance with the Lyrani and establish diplomatic relations with those Keldorian factions that had renounced their empire's expansionist policies. In the Great Hall of the rebuilt Lyrani capital, Admiral Maya Reyes and High Coordinator Ilaraven stood side by side as the United Earth-Lyrani Mutual Defense Pact was signed. Your people fought for us when you had no obligation to do so, Ilaraven addressed the assembled dignitaries, skin shifting through patterns of formal gratitude. You risked your lives for a species you had only just met. Admiral Cho, representing Earth, stepped forward. Humanity's history is filled with conflict, High Coordinator. We'd fought countless wars among ourselves over territory, resources, ideology. But we've learned something important through our long and often painful evolution. And what is that, Admiral? Asked the Lyrani leader. That the true measure of civilization isn't found in conquest, but in who you choose to stand beside when the darkness comes. The Keldorians built an empire through fear and subjugation. We choose to build something different, a community of worlds standing together. As the ceremony concluded, Maya found herself back on the observation deck of the Horizon, now repaired and serving as the flagship for the Joint Human-Lyrani Exploration Initiative. The stars looked different somehow, closer, more accessible, filled with both promise and peril. Still admiring the view, Admiral, Dr. Chen approached, echoing their conversation from what felt like a lifetime ago. It never gets old, she replied with a smile. But I see it differently now. How so? Maya gestured toward the viewport, where a Lyrani vessel was visible moving alongside human ships in formation. We went to the stars looking for knowledge, for resources, for new frontiers. But we found something more important. Friends, Chen suggested. Family, Maya corrected. And now the galaxy knows. When someone hurts our family, humanity comes with everything we've got. In the following years, the alliance would grow to include other species, creating what would eventually be known as the Stellar Concordat. The Keldorian Empire would fragment and reform as a federation of autonomous worlds. And humanity, once confined to a single solar system, would be remembered not for its technology or its military prowess, but for a simple, powerful truth demonstrated in that first desperate battle. When the universe tested humanity's character, we chose to stand with our allies, no matter the cost.